This is Hard Parking, sponsored by Wright Honda and Wright Toyota out of Scottsdale, Arizona. I'm your host, Jhae Pfenning, recording from my home studio in Gilbert, Arizona. Car Week is here. Car Week in Arizona, not the Car Week in Monterey. It is Auction Week. A lot of events. I've gone to a couple so far. I'll probably go to a couple more. Hope to have some in-studio guests, at least one in-studio guest from out of town to talk about Car Week with you guys. We'll find out who that is next week because as of right now, I'm not sure. I just know I have a lot of stuff on my plate. A little update on the HOA. For those of you who have been listening to this long enough, my complaints about the HOA seem endless, but I finally got a letter after months. I think it was in February I had filed an appeal for my paint code. To take you back a little bit, I got a notice back then that my house color wasn't approved. It basically said, hey, you didn't get prior approval before painting your house this exact colors. I said, yes, I did. And they go, well, you got partial approval, but your garage and your front door were not approved. You need to change those. I go, wait a minute. 18 months ago, 1.5 years ago, at the time, so that was August of 2022, you guys approved it. I keep a record of everything, all communications, all PDFs that I have with the HOA, because when you log on to their site, their portal doesn't give you anything. They have no records. And so they go, well, would you like to appeal? So after I walked up and down the street, knocked on everybody's doors and see who all got these letters, which half the people did, I go, yeah, I'll appeal. And after I drove around the neighborhood and saw 20 so violations, I appealed and said, hey, I'm not going to call out any of my neighbors. Nobody has a terrible house. There are many people that have painted theirs in the same similar fashion as I did, to where the body, the fascia, and the bump out are the three colors you can use. I painted my garage door dark, just like the fascia. I did not use the bump out color, and this is the color of the body of my house. It looks glorious. There's people who've come and asked me which specific one of those color combos that I use so they can paint their house the same. So anyway, I filed the appeal. HOA went through a bunch of drama this last year, a bunch of drama. So I got put on the back burner. But my email that I received the other day said, hey, we've had an opportunity to look at your appeal and we will grant your appeal if you would submit another architectural request for the paint and list exactly the way you have your house painted now. I said, no problem. I put it in. Because really, at the end of the day, unless you painted your house purple with yellow trim or blue with red, it's not an eyesore, and it adds to the visual value of the neighborhood. It just looks nice. When people drive through, they go, oh, wow, that's a nice house. Nice house, nice garage. Oh, I like that door. I like the color of their house. What color do you think that is? I want to do that. And so you can hit me up for my front yard looking like shit. I'm fine with that. I own that. I got weeds. That's on me. But don't approve the color of my house and 18 months later come and tell me that it's no longer approved. So it's funny because a month ago, they put out an email asking for volunteers to be part of the new house painting committee to approve new colors, make renditions to existing paint, and approve new paint for the houses. Of course, I didn't volunteer. I told my wife to do it. She doesn't want to volunteer. So hopefully one of my neighbors who got dinged on this volunteered. Because, again, if the house looks nice, that's one thing. It's nice, subjective, yes and no. I think we all know that you can't have a yellow house with a purple fence in an HOA. Like common sense. We all know that you don't want weeds growing out of your driveway and out of your front yard. Your grass shouldn't be 1.5 feet long, right? I mean, it's just common sense in an HOA. But that's not the real news, right? TikTok is gone. Or is it? As we all know now, TikTok was banned. Then it was brought back under executive order, and it could be banned again. Everybody's upset. I'll be completely honest with you. I don't give a shit. It took me forever to get on TikTok, but I also have friends that have businesses on TikTok, and so my heart goes out to them, and hopefully they get that situated. But it's not like this thing just happened. Oh yeah, coming up on today's show, Willie Zuniga. Anyway, so it's not like that thing just happened. Last year, ByteDance, the owner of TikTok, was given 200 and something days to either divest the company, which means sell it off in little pieces, or get rid of it. And it is factually proven that company, ByteDance, who also owns CapCut and Lemon8, I'll get to Lemon8 and CapCut in a second. They've had some issues. And the Chinese Communist Party, who owns ByteDance, doesn't want to give up the algorithm, and they don't want to give up having it here in the United States. And so I know there's a lot of people who are outraged. What's the big deal? The House is split 50-50. They kind of want to keep it, but it is major spyware, and that's been proven. Give me a break, everybody who says, well, our own companies tell us that we can't, they're spying on us all the time with advertising and things, and they're doing it illegally. Okay, so would you rather have a United States company monitor you so they can sell you shit? Or you can have somebody on the other side of the world monitor you? Because what they've been doing is listening through on people's devices through TikTok. And they were caught red-handed with this, and that's what caused this whole thing last year. So it's not like this just happened, but they couldn't get it done. And the crazy thing is, everyone forgot about it. But Mr. Beast was looking to try to buy it. Kevin O'Leary of Shark Tank was offering $20 billion in cash to buy it. China doesn't want to sell it. And by the way, you know that none of our social media platforms are allowed in China. The only way you can have them in China is if China is a majority owner. That's why they don't have the stuff we have. That's why their TikTok is completely different than our TikTok. My wife loves TikTok. I make fun of her all the time, and I'm on TikTok. I suck at it, but it's just another way to try to grow from here. But I don't have a business on TikTok. And again, I have friends that have businesses on TikTok, and they rely on it. Now, as far as all the influencers making all the money, I get that. It's easy to make fun of the influencers and say, oh, well, now they got to get real jobs. That's not entirely fair. And hey, if you're going to be over the top, eccentric, and crazy on TikTok and have millions of followers and get a lot of money from it, good for you. I'm all for it. I may not be into it, but I'm never going to hate on somebody else's money. It's like a lot of the music. Some of the music to me is god awful. I'm never going to hate on your money. Get your money, get yours. Try to be a decent person about it. You get everything that's coming to you good. If you're a complete asshole, forget you. I hope you don't have success. But was it something like 100 and how many millions of people are on TikTok in the United States? 170 million people or something crazy like that, or 70 million, whatever the number is, it's a lot. But it's funny that when they took it down for less than 24 hours, it's like the world blew up. We still have X, we still have Instagram, we still have Facebook. There's a lot of options out there. Back to Lemon8 and CapCut really quick. We know CapCut, it's a video editing tool. I've suggested it to people. I don't use it. I downloaded it. I couldn't figure it out. And I make videos just fine without it. But I didn't know, but they're also owned by ByteDance. So CapCut, which is only designed to edit videos for social media, that's gone. And then you have Lemon8. Okay, so Lemon, the letter 8. That was supposed to be the substitute for TikTok when you knew TikTok was probably going to go away. But it's funny because it's owned by TikTok. And so my thought was, okay, how does that work? You can't ban one and keep the other. It just doesn't make sense to me. And when you sign up for Lemon8, it pulls all your information over from TikTok. But you can't get any more integrated than that. In fact, just before TikTok got banned the first time, because as of right now, recording on the 19th is still active. When I logged in, it said, so-and-so wants to follow you on Lemon8. I'm like, huh? I'm not even on Lemon8, but let me see what this is about. So I clicked the link and it took me to go download Lemon8. I go, okay, I know about it because Wes talks about it. Yvette says she's on it, my wife. I downloaded it. Would you like to log in with all your TikTok information? I said, sure, because I knew that that's what it is. So it sends all the information over, and now my Lemon8 account looks just like my TikTok account. Same links, same everything. Half the same followers. It's like Threads, right? Like Threads and Instagram. It's basically the same thing. They tell you it's not. It's the same thing. It's owned by the same people. And so I wasn't surprised that Lemon8 was not reactivated. And I don't know if Lemon8 is reactivated now. I think maybe only TikTok is for a limited time only. But I don't care. And I think it's silly that people just lost their minds. Your average user. Now, if you're making money off of it, I get it. I'm not going to make fun of you. But if you're just a user, like my wife, she was joking about it. But the other day, her TikTok went down. Mine was still up. And she goes, can I trade you phones? Let me just trade you phones. And before they turn your TikTok off. I'm like, are you kidding me? She was joking, but she did grab my phone for a second. So maybe she was like half joking. But that's ridiculous. To be so hooked on a platform that you just lose your shit. TikTok never goes down, does it? Because I know when Twitter X would go down or Instagram go down, you get to the internet and you're like, hey, is Twitter down or X down or whatever down? And you see it and people complain about it and then it's back up and no one cares. But we'll see what happens with TikTok. I don't care about it, but I understand the concern. There's nothing they're going to get from me regardless, but there are ways to kind of mitigate what they can get, hopefully. But they have been caught lying and stealing information and spying on very high profile reporters in Washington. And it is a fact. You can look it up. And so I understand that part of it. And to me, no amount of entertainment all day, watching videos and learning where I should eat when I go on vacation, none of that is worth national security, in my opinion. The Honda Civic is the car of the year. Congratulations. And since we're turning around all the woke stuff, I have a thought. We don't like woke things anymore. Cancel culture, wokeness, it's overwhelmed its day. Now it's the bad thing, where before it was bad to not be that. But since we're reversing all that stuff, can we get the Dukes of Hazzard back? Someone posted on X the other day, what's the first thing you think of when you see this flag? And it was a Confederate flag. I think the most popular response was the Dukes of Hazzard. That's the response I gave. So the picture of the General Lee. Look like them Duke boys going to find themselves in trouble. The second thing to that is South Garland. I grew up in Garland, Texas. The South Garland Colonels, that was their flag. That was their mascot. They were Confederate colonels, which I guess in hindsight, maybe not the best. But I never directly correlated it to racism in the South, which historically, obviously, that's what it is. But we shouldn't completely erase our history, because then how are we going to learn for the future? You don't erase it. You embrace the fact that you have a history, but you can always look back and say, well, this is what we did. This was wrong. We know it was wrong. Let's not make the same mistake and let's move forward. Wow, have we not come a long ways? Think about where we used to be. Think about where we're now. Think about where we're trying to be. But if you erase all that, what do you got? Finally, before we get to Willie Zuniga, the fires are still burning in California. And there's a lot of stuff out there about conspiracy and did they mean to light the fires and the insurance and Oprah and Lahaina, Hawaii. I don't know. A lot of the stuff I've listened to makes a lot of sense to me. And it could be a little bit of a lot of those things. But as of Friday, this Friday, January 17th, it was an estimated $135 to $150 billion in damage. And that's 10 times more costly than any other time in history. And again, some of those fires are still burning. And they still don't know where it originally started. It didn't just spontaneously combust. There were no lightning storms. But sometimes all it takes is like one little spark to cause a serious issue. And there's a lot of copycatters out there. Sometimes the flame starts in one spot, it flows in the air and lands somewhere else and starts a fire. We've all been at those campfires. We've all done the very irresponsible thing of throwing paper on there. What happens when you throw a wad of paper or cardboard on fire? It catches fire, but the thin layers start floating up and you watch that ember. And how many times have you watched this ember float across the sky and you watch it and you follow it? And if it lands, you stomp it out because you're like, oh, that didn't burn out in the sky. So imagine that on a fire that burns hundreds of thousands of acres. So that's a lot of damage. We'll continue to monitor it. But with all that being said, this following conversation is brought to you by Arcus Foundry, business tech failing whack. Too many tools, too much chaos, not enough time. Arcus Foundry is here to fix that with SparkForge. You get a unified platform that connects everything you need, your website, social media, phone systems, and more. No need for an expensive IT department or dealing with a bunch of separate systems. It's the all-in-one solution that saves you time. and helps your business run smoother. Head over to arcusfoundry.com and use the code HARDPARKED, one word, to get your first month free, upgrade your tech, and get back to business. All right, we're being joined by Willie Zuniga. I ran into Willie at the Hot Wheels, well, not the Hot Wheels, when I went to Honda Corporate a few weeks ago. I guess at this point it would be earlier in December, something I've wanted to do for a while. And I told you guys a story of running into him. Super cool. So we're able to get this thing situated. So officially, Willie Zuniga, Willie, Mr. Hot Wheels, man. Welcome to Hard Parking.
Hey, Jay. Yeah, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. I've been hearing the show over the last few months and happy to join.
Did you join One Drink Wednesday?
No, I found out about it through Dennis Keiko when you did the interview with him, and I was just curious on who could actually get his time a little bit. It's hard to catch him.
Well, I got to tell you, it's incredibly difficult to get a hold of him. Michael was a lot easier, but even then, I've been talking about, and Dennis has been talking about coming on here, but he wants to do it in studio, and I don't know when he's ever going to come to Phoenix. So it's going to have to be on the phone. But it's funny you say that because you call him, he goes to the mailbox, and the mailbox is always full. Maybe you text him, and it takes a few times for him to respond. I don't even try email. Slide into his DMs, you don't get anything. So, it's kind of funny. But I asked you about One Drink Wednesday because Wes Tangersley is following you as well. And usually the only time he follows car people is if you stumbled into our live at some point. So maybe you joined one of our lives at some point. Maybe when he was hosting the One Drink Wednesday account and I was joining from my normal Jhae Pfenning account. But in any event, good deal, man. So
yeah.
Talk to me about the craze, because I walked up and it's kind of funny because when we were talking and you said that you'd watch the show and I go, well, let me get you some swag. And then I kind of expected for you to be gone by the time I came back because it took me forever. And so then I'm walking around with the coasters and the sticker and kind of like the little autocannon pouch that I had on me. I'm like, God, I'm never going to find this guy. And then I just happen to be recording and I come across your setup in front of your Civic and I get the cars first. And then as I look up, there you are.
Yep. Yeah. So you want to talk about the craze a little bit?
Yeah, let's talk about the craze a little bit. And you can start wherever you want because there's a lot of stuff to get to.
Yeah, definitely. And cut me off if I ramble a little too much because it's a whole universe. Like it's a universe of diecast. Honestly, the poster child, so to speak, it would be. I mean, everybody knows Hot Wheels, right? You grow up with it as a kid. I mean, they've been around since the 70s or the 60s, something like that. So it's hard to miss them, right? So I think just the nostalgia behind it has just kind of picked up so much that the market for these cars have just astronomically gone up. And it's not all Hot Wheels. It's really what's popular, and what's popular right now is JDM. So I got into this shortly, like right before I bought my Type R, and I was just kind of trying to do like my own version of a vision board, right? So I first of all, my wife got me a McLaren, and I was just like, oh, this is so cool. Like I really liked it. And then, but I wanted to do something towards what I was a little bit more interested in. And I've had Hondas pretty much my whole life. So I looked up a Type R and I found a championship white Hot Wheels Type R. And so I was like, oh, I have to have this. So I bought it. That's what kind of started me with the world of Hot Wheels. And then shortly thereafter, I kind of realized it's getting a little too expensive to buy them like through eBay and through resellers. How do I get this like at the store? And I've always been kind of a hobbyist. So I kind of understand there's rare things, there's not rare things, there's things that are harder to get because people are looking for them, stuff like that.
Like the treasure hunts.
So I figured that was, yes, exactly. So I kind of figured that was the case with Hot Wheels. So social media nowadays just makes it super easy to find what you're looking for. So there's a ton of people out there that post a lot of content on what they're finding, how they're finding it. So you kind of get the gist just by doing a couple days of research. And So I realized, okay, there's the grocery stores, there's your Targets, there's your Walmarts. But I say all that because I feel like that's sort of the typical story when you meet someone in diecast nowadays. You have the people that kind of jumped in because they like some sort of JDM or some sort of Euro car, and you kind of start pulling the strings and you realize there's this whole universe. Then you have your Hot Wheels guys that have been around for ages and ages, right? And so there's always a little bit of friction between like the new people and the old school people, but at the end of the day, we're all
how so?
Oh, so
like, what's the rub? Like, is it some fiction like an Anchorman scene, right? You got the new school collectors and the old school collectors.
Yeah. It's something like that, but not as intense. It's really just like, oh, okay, here's another new guy that's like looking for something that I'm looking for. That's because they're limited. Once Hot Wheels stops producing a particular color, it's very rare that they'll produce it again. They'll maybe release the same color, but with like some new decals on it, but exactly the same way that they came out with it. It's not often that they'll do it. So if you don't find it when it's coming out, like you're kind of left at the disposal of the market. So then now you have to pay the $5-10 for one Hot Wheel that someone else bought it for $1. So yeah.
Right. And it sounds kind of like a competitive space, I guess. Not really thinking about it, because traditionally what Hot Wheels are for little kids, right? But it's funny.
Yeah.
I challenge anyone to go to a Target, to go to a Walmart, to go to anywhere where there's a bin of Hot Wheels and find anything but an adult digging through that bin because of the collectability. So we buy the old throwaways, the stocking stuffers, but we're really looking for that special EK hatch or something. And then this toilet bowl car that's not a treasure hunt or anything is going to go to the kid or going to go to the toy drive. Yep.
And I'm glad you bring it up because that's so early on. I was just looking for the things that for myself, and then I kept so they call it hunting, right? Hot Wheels hunting,
right?
So you go on the hunt, and then you find what you want, and then you leave everything else behind. That's sort of what some people do towards the beginning, and then you realize, okay, I'm kind of leaving really good stuff behind. So what I started doing very early on, because my wife and I always do toy drives and things like that, I realized like most of these sought out for JDM cars and like Euro cars and muscle cars, like they won't land in kids' hands. So I started just getting things to trade, and then I realized, okay, I can't really trade too much because everybody else that I know has the stuff that I have. So I just started getting more and more to pretty much take the donations and to charities. And so when I bought the Type R, I started going to more car shows. And then I realized there's this whole world of like toy drives with car shows. And ever since then, I've just been taking at a minimum 2 to 3 cases of Hot Wheels to donate to kids, basically. And if you catch me at any Honda event, you will find me with a case of Hot Wheels that are all Hondas. And if a kid comes up to me, starts talking to me about my car, starts talking to me about Honda or anything related to cars, I'll ask them, hey, do you like Hot Wheels? And I'll give them a Honda Hot Wheel. So that kind of makes it a little bit more fulfilling for me in terms of like just giving back, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, when I was a kid, you see the dream cars, and what we would do, and not as a little kid, but as a teenager, we couldn't afford it. So we would go, I had a couple buddies of mine, we'd go looking for models, like model kits. So we go to like Michael's, and we're just like, okay, well, there's an NSX, and now we bought the NSX kit, or we bought the Porsche or the WRX, Rally Edition, and we'd put those together, and that would be kind of like our version of kind of what you were saying. But then when it comes to Hot Wheels, you don't really think about it to that level But once you actually do, it just makes that much more sense to where it's funny. About 10, 12 years ago, I thought I was going to make a clock, like these Hot Wheels clocks.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started buying a bunch of the same cars, and I was going to do an NSX one. And so I bought up all the NSXs, and I would tell all my family and friends in state and out of state, hey, go find these NSXs. When you find them, I'll pay you for them, ship them to me. So I have this giant bin of first gen and second gen NSXs. Half of them are stripped down to the bare metal with no wheels.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are just still in the packaging. But after a while, I go, man, I got this pile of cars. So then I started doing kind of like you were doing in a sense, where I would just throw them in my glove box. And when I'd go to a car meet or a car show, depending on what the conversation was, I'll pull it out and be like, here's your first NSX. Let's say that, hey, this is my dream car. It's like, well, it took me 20 years to get mine, but now you have one here and it starts there. And I think it's the same thing with you handing out the little FK8 Civics Type Rs, because to a lot of people, yeah, I want a car, but that's my dream car. That FK8 Civic is badass. I'm gonna have one of these days. And here you are. I'm Willie the Hot Wheel Man. Here you go. So your Civic. Now, so you've only been doing this for maybe 6 or 7 years, depending on when you bought your car, right?
So I bought my car right at the tail end of the 10th gen. So in October 2021 was when they stopped shipping them out to the SoCal dealers. And so, yeah, it took me about a couple months to find the right one. But it was around 2021 when I started looking for Hot Wheels. Yeah.
Well, that's not bad then, because it's one of those deals where it doesn't matter if you've been doing it for 30 years, 10 years, 3 years. If you find something you're focused on and you're intentional about it, you can get some cool stuff. Because when I walked up to yours, you have this nice little diorama. You have that limited edition mat. It looks kind of like a really long mouse pad. And the way they did it, when, and I'm describing this for the people, is when you see the cars on there, the way they did the road, I think it's, how many lanes, like 4 or 5 lane road? They blurred,
I think.
Yeah, they blurred the lines to where it looks like maybe someone took that as a still photo where the car's not moving, but the road looks like it is moving. And it makes me wonder why don't they just do that? Like all these Hot Wheels sets, you have these roads. Why don't they just do the blurred lines so it looks like the car's always moving?
Yeah. You really dive into the universe that's around here. So that's from a particular YouTube channel called the Lamley Group. And that's produced by John Lamley. So he collaborates with different brands to do some really cool stuff. And particularly that mat that you saw, it always displays some of his coolest cars with that mat. And I mean, he's just very well known in the diecast community because he doesn't just focus on Hot Wheels. He focuses on other brands as well. Around this time of the year, he's doing like his Diecast of the Year awards.
Oh.
He'll do Tomica, he'll do Mini GT, Hot Wheels, and people vote. It's really cool how he does that. But all that to say, but to describe sort of how deep the universe can get.
Dude, stuff like that's super amazing, and people don't really think about it. I wonder what people actually think from the outside looking in when you think about Hot Wheels, because I don't know, I'm 48, and to me, I don't know why, but when I think about Hot Wheels, I think about these old hot rods, these easy top looking things. But the reality is, I got a whole room full of diecast cars, and I don't have any of those cars. I don't know if that's subconscious because of the flames associated with Hot Wheels.
Yeah, so it definitely has a foundation of muscle cars for sure. One of the first cars that they made, the Hot Wheels Sweet 16, they call them. One of them, I think it's a Camaro. So it really has a foundation of muscle cars, and you can't ignore it even in the normal car culture, right? Your foundation in the car scene is your old school like American muscle, right?
Yeah.
And so that's sort of the fascinating thing about Hot Wheels. It's a little glimpse of what's kind of happened over the years in the car scene. And so the whole transition into JDM, it's really interesting to think about how long it's actually been. So for the first Honda Civic that was produced by Hot Wheels. It was back in around 2001. So in comparison to the 70s, I mean, it's not that long that they've been making diecast cars for JDM.
That's true.
And I mean, there was a Supra back in, I think, the 80s when the 82 Supra came out. They made that, but it wasn't like as frequent of the diecasts that they do. And you have to, like, you kind of have to think about it like as a business. From what I have understood, it costs about anywhere from like 100 to 200,000 to produce one new diecast, and it could take from like 9 months to a year to get one diecast from like inception to fruition.
Like a brand new mold, right?
Right. So if you don't have a market for it, I mean, they're not going to do it, right? And that's kind of that whole essence behind the business. It's kind of allowed other businesses to kind of come up and do their own niche products. And so that's why I kind of mentioned that you have like this whole universe of around diecast, because it's not just Hot Wheels, right? You have your Inno 64s, which are super like high scale diecasts that you're paying $20, $30, $50 for it directly from the seller. You have Mini GT that has almost as good of detail that Inno 64 has, but the packaging is more closely to Hot Wheels.
Tamica. You have Tamica.
Yeah, you have that one as well, and so it really gets. And each of them have their own niche of like how they specialize in it. So then it allows them to do castings that Hot Wheels isn't doing. But then that's what people are looking for in these other brands. They want to see different die casts, different colors, different, more like higher quality, things like that.
I know there's people screaming because every time you say Hot Wheels, they automatically think about Matchbox as competition. And I didn't know until recently. I think I'd picked up a Matchbox at one of the Hot Wheels Legends tours and started reading on it. And so they're both owned by Mattel, so they're essentially the same company. So I don't know why they continue to make them a little different. But Mattel used to be just shit cars, I'll be honest with you. And not Mattel, but Matchbox used to be shit cars. And now they look pretty good. So I'm always looking and I go, when are they going to make a Matchbox NSX? But I guess that, maybe Hot Wheels, their Hot Wheels branch owns that mold. Are you familiar with Ryu Asada?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, so he was one of us.
Legend designer, but RIP, right?
Yeah, unfortunately he passed, but he's I don't have his NSX, the Ryu Asada NSX, but yeah, he was one of us. He was a Honda Acura guy through and through.
When you say his NSX, are you talking about like his particular casting?
The red one. There's a red one out there that people refer to as Ryu's because it has a little sticker and everything on it that he had on his car.
Yeah. Next time that I see you, I'll have a special one for you then. Yeah.
That means I have to come to California more often then.
Yeah. You're always welcome.
Well, so what do you have? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. So I was just gonna harp on a little bit on what Ryu left us in the diecast community. So is it Ryu? Pretty much. I've heard it both ways.
Okay,
Ryu.
Right.
Yeah. I'll have to confirm with some people that know him directly, but yeah. So he did some of the best JDM Hot Wheels that are around. And for those that don't know, so Ryu Asada, he was a Hot Wheels designer back, I think, from somewhere around like 2015.
Sounds right.
Until he passed away back in I think it was either 2020 or 2021. So it was fairly recent that he left us, but he left a lot of really, really good history in his diecast. Just to name a few, he did the EK9, he did the FK8, he did the NSX, he did the EF, he did his S2000, he did the City Turbo, and he wouldn't just do the diecast and then just to kind of like check the box, like, okay, I did this, I did that. Like, he'll make them how you would want to see them in their JDM form. So like your S2000, most of the time convertibles you'll see as a convertible, but you know that the S2000 that's like sought out for and it's like worth more is going to be your hardtop. I mean, nowadays, I think to get your hardtops on an S2000, I think it's like 10 grand and above. So from my understanding, that's why he did the S2000 that way. You'll see some of his castings that have like little quirks. There's a Hot Wheels that's called a Mighty K. There's a skateboard on that one because he from my understanding he likes skateboarding. Things like that. Like he'll put like a different touch to it that it's really hard to see in the designs nowadays, to get creative and be able to work through the process of making a die cast and be able to get those like finishing details to get it like one level up, right?
What's a JDM Hot Wheel that you don't have that you want? Because you had mentioned that when they come, once they're out, and sometimes you have to buy them in the second market. What's the most you paid for a second market Hot Wheel, first off, and then what's out there that you want that you don't have yet?
So,
or even just diecast, period. It doesn't have to be Hot Wheels.
Yeah, I was gonna have to caveat that because since I started collecting, I'm kind of like a fanatic when I get into a hobby.
Right. Yeah.
And so I won't stop until I have what I'm looking for. And so for me, for Hot Wheels, it was like I wanted all the Hot Wheels. I wanted all the Honda Hot Wheels, sorry. And so when I get into something like that, I look for the most expensive stuff first, because I know that like just normal supply and demand, and over time, like things like this, like just get more expensive. And so I kind of made a list of like talking through people, looking on pages on like what are the expensive, rare things that like you can't find easily. So the most that I paid for a Hot Wheels was 600 plus some what I call like plus some boot. I added some additional Hot Wheels in there to get to the value of 800 of it. So it's actually the last convention that Ryu Asada went to. They commemorated him with a dinner car for his S2000. So it was a yellow S2000, very nice paint. It had the convention details engraved on the car in like a special packaging.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's the most that I paid for a Honda Hot Wheels. And then at the moment, I'm not really looking for any additional Honda Hot Wheels if it's been out. Currently, there is one that has not been out yet, and it's an EK9 Spoon Edition that they're going to release as a 2-pack at Target with FL5 Spoon Edition as well. So that one is a little bit of the craze right now that people are going to be looking for this upcoming 2025 year. And then you asked if there's any that I'm looking for. I think the only one that I'm looking for is going to be this NSX. It's a Honda NSX NA1 from my understanding, and it's in the black version. It's from a brand called Kaido House.
Okay. Oh yeah, I've seen they got some. I follow them on Instagram, and they got some really cool things going on.
Have you seen their NSX casting?
I don't think so. I haven't. I don't think I've looked at anything they've had going on in a while. But I know that I think maybe last year I saw they were doing some sort of a launch. I don't know if it was an R34 or something. I go, oh, this is sick. Yes. And I think I had signed up to buy it or something. I don't know what happened, but it never went through. Yes. And then I just kind of bailed on it.
So if you like high quality, detail oriented diecast, definitely recommend getting into Kaido House. You end up paying between 20 to 40 for a particular non-chase variant. Once you get into the chases, you're talking about $100 and upwards.
And they come in the box, right? They don't come in like, because they're not Hot Wheels, they're just scale, correct. Miniature scale. I don't know, what's the scale? Is it 160 something?
It's 164.
164th. Yeah. And then I think correct. 164 and 172 are very similar, but I think that's 164th.
Correct.
Are they die cast or are they resin? Do you know? Because resin's coming in big too. I guess.
Yeah, resin is a big one, and you get a lot more detail in the resin castings. Yeah, but So yeah, I'm looking for a black version of that NSX because it was a Malaysia exclusive that they came out with that one, and that one is not easy to find in the States. Anybody that has it in the States got it from someone that got it in Malaysia. So you have to find someone that's kind of like traded around or buy it on eBay, and that's just super expensive.
What do you have outside of the JDM cars? Or do you just don't even look? Because every once in a while when I go out, I'll see something. I'll go, oh, that's cool. Well, that's a really cool 67 Camaro. Like, that's super clean, OEM plus looking. Doesn't have stupid wheels on it or some weird paint job. And I'll buy it for no reason. Like, I have some high-end exotics. You know, I bought the McLaren for no reason, the McLaren F1, because it looked cool. Do you have anything like that, like your miscellaneous impulse purchase?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, impulse purchases are just super easy to
and
just
they're
like
dangerous.
Jump into. Yeah, it's dangerous. Like in a hobby like this, you really have to focus in on what you're looking for and try to stay in your lane, or else it's an easy money pit. But I guess at the beginning, I was just buying anything that looked cool. So I was buying like Toyotas and Aston Martins and muscle cars here and there. Nowadays, it's really, I'm looking for higher quality. So like Ano 64 has some like chrome series. So I'm looking right now here in my garage. There's an R34 chrome series that they came out with, one in gold, one in black chrome, and then the other one in like silver chrome. So things like that catch my attention, that just look cool with the rest of the group, I'll get. Recently, a new brand came up called Cartooned. They're tiny little cars. They look like cartoons.
Oh, it's a Hot Wheels, right? A Hot Wheels lineup, or just a completely different brand?
It's a different brand. So Hot Wheels does have like a series called Cartooned.
They're squishy looking.
They're yeah. So it's kind of like that. But what this brand did, so they're with a toy company called MGA, and the designer, his name's Louis Tanahara. He's kind of taken it to a whole nother level. So he realized that there's a market for these little squishy tiny cars, and he took it to a level that like the paint is some like very high quality, almost car looking paint. You have rubber tires on it. You have like customization ability with these cars. And the lineup that he has at the moment is like everybody's just kind of been raving about it. He's got like Camaros, he's got Corvettes, Bel Airs, Nomads. From what I've heard, this is just the first wave of what he's been doing. So I kind of talk to him every once in a while, and he kind of mentioned that there is an element of like JDM that might be upcoming for the next year or so. So I mean, a lot of people have been looking for them, and he's done a really good job as far as from a collector standpoint in making a good quality car. But then also what collectors or what hunters really want to see is like, what's the chase, right? What's the chase? Like, and he made the chase very limited so that people focused in on the normal cars. And I think he found a pretty good balance with it. The chases are very, very hard to get. You can't just like go out and find it. And like,
and what's a chase?
So a chase with all these brands, most of the time, there will be a variation car that is rarer than the rest of the cars.
Like a different color, paint job or something. Color.
Correct. So Hot Wheels has two variations of chase cars. One of them's called Spectra Flame paint, and then the other one is just all black, just an all black color. So on the main lines with the typical packaging that you could see, people are looking for the super treasure hunts. Those are the ones that come with the Spectra Flame paint. And then on the premium cars, if you're lucky enough to find one, because those ones are even harder to find, if you find yourself with a premium car that's all black, most likely it's going to be a chase. But again, these are the cars that everybody's trying to look for. And so different brands do something similar. So Cartooned, they have two chase variations. One's called the red bottoms. So they'll paint the bottom of the car red with typically some red wheels as well. And then they also have one that's called double dipped or double dripped. And then that one will be an all gold variation, almost like a chrome gold.
But people they try to join the specialization game, which makes a lot of sense. But you kind of trickled into something that I had lined up to maybe bring up. In looking at, you have the whole spoon lineup. Do you how much of a purist are you? Or do you not care as much for your personal collection? What I'm talking about is, do you buy stuff that's been customized? Do you do any customizations on your own?
Oh yeah,
I know that's a huge thing with Hot Wheels is customization. People take the wheels off, swap them out for little rubber wheels, and so when you go to these conventions, it's like, okay, is this a customization or is this a super treasure hunt type of deal?
Correct. Yeah. Again, it's another facet of the universe, right? So it is a lot of fun to customize some of these cars, but it takes time and it takes some know-how and then the right tooling to do it. So if you know how to do it, if you have the right tools to do it, I mean, you could pretty much make whatever kind of car you want into a diecast. So I have tried to dabble a little bit in it, but all I've been able to kind of achieve is swapping out the wheels. So when you think about your main lines, normal mainline cars will have plastic wheels. And so an easy way to customize it and make it look cooler is put on rubber wheels on it. And so I try and go and find other cars that have those cool wheels, or I'll go to a Hot Wheels meet and find someone that's selling premium wheels and then put them on the castings that I have. So this year I took a little bit more time than previous years doing that, and NSX was one of my first ones that I did, and they come out really cool.
It's funny because they come out cool. I'm just thinking about this because I have a red first gen NSX that was customized. I think I bought it off of either Instagram or eBay like years ago. It's funny because they look cool, but if that was a real car, the offsets and the fitment would be so far off, you would just get like straight up clowned with the car looking like that.
You're talking about the offset on the NSX, like the first gen, right?
Well, I mean, like the treasure hunts, right? They come with the rubber tires and the wheels, and they look great as a model, but as a real car, it's like, dude, your tires, your offsets, everything's like, it's like way too big for that car.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
It's a visual thing. So
it is. On those ones, so I try to get it as close as possible to how you would see a real car.
I don't doubt
it. The thing with the NSX, the first gen, the way that Hot Wheels did it, they have bigger wheels in the back and smaller wheels in the front, and so it's really hard to get wheels on those cars the right way, and that's why that's kind of why I challenged myself to do that one first. If I could find some wheels that look cool on there, that have the correct offset, and that sit well with the car, I was like, okay, maybe I could continue doing this with like other cars.
At least it's semi life accurate because NSXs are always staggered. So right now we're recording this right around Christmas. It's actually Christmas Eve, and it makes me think and wonder about any of your holiday plans. And then when you're talking about buying specialized cars, I'm sure you picked up the spoon. Actually, I think not spoon, but I think I actually saw you had it on display already. But that special S2000 that they were doing inside at Honda HQ.
Yeah. Holiday plans. I mean, it's just spending it with time with family. Are
there any traditions you guys have?
So my wife's family typically does tamales the day before Christmas Eve.
Yep.
So they spent most of the day yesterday doing that. I had to work, so I had to skip out on that fun. But typically we all get together and make tamales the day before Christmas Eve. And so we have plans for later today to go enjoy that feast. This year is particularly a little bit more special for us because my wife is pregnant.
Oh.
And so we're very, very happy and very excited for the upcoming year because it's gonna change completely. And since we're on the topic of diecast, I mean, it's definitely on top of mind for me that I'm gonna have to do something different with how I look for these cars, how I buy them, and all that.
Sure, you're gonna have to build something because I know you have the stocky collection from Donut Media, and so you're gonna have to do something stocky looking for the baby. Dude, you're gonna have so much fun with this. I could tell already.
Yeah. I'm excited to see how this all unfolds. I mean, obviously you just have like a lot of future plans, you know, things that you kind of think on, like how it's going to go, how you're going to do it. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for parenthood. It's going to be our first. And we'll see where it takes us.
Well, congrats on that. I want to ask you a little bit about social media, because you know how when you look at someone's profile and it tells you who is following them that you know, like mutual follows.
Yep.
Take me through the mindset. So Honda Pro Jason is following you. Have you met Honda Pro? So
he was actually one of the first social media people that I met. And it's really interesting how the world works. So he was coming over to talk to Doug from Hondata one weekend or something like that. And I saw that he was like on his way to LA, and I was like, hey, like, I'm a huge fan. If you have some time, like, I'd love to like catch some coffee or just say hi or whatever. And so he said, yeah, meet me outside of my hotel and we'll chat real quick. So I took the championship white Type R that I had at the time, and I just had a couple of like talking points just to say hi. And my plan was to show him my Type R, my actual Type R. But the day before, I got in an accident. Someone rammed right behind me going like 60, and we were coming to a full stop.
So wait, that's how you got all the money to buy a $600 Hot Wheel? Just kidding. You don't have to answer that question, okay? Just
that one's a different story. Okay. But what I did use the money for from that was to get some of the additional parts that I ended up getting on the car.
Right.
But yeah, I couldn't show him the Type R at the time. He helped me out and recommended me some shops here because so he quickly he's like, don't worry about it. Let me just call one of my buddies here. So he knew some people here out in LA, obviously, and yeah, he knew a shop. So then that's where I ended up taking it, and yeah, they took care of the car. So that's how I met Honda Pro Jason, and ever since then, he stops by and says hi. It's really cool to have someone like that you could like reach out to. I mean, most of the social media people, I mean, they're super, super nice, especially if they're Honda people, like with the brand, especially if they're like partnered with the brand. You know that like not anybody could be partnered with Honda, and as far as like enthusiasts go, I mean, they're always happy to give you some information, like help you out. Most of the people that I've reached out to are very quick to turn around their messages. I don't know how they do it, particularly like Dennis and Jason. They're really quick on responding, and I always appreciate it.
I haven't heard negative Honda Pro Jason stories. I've never personally met him. We follow each other on social media, and once every blue moon we'll comment on each other's stuff. But that's the best Honda Pro story I've ever heard. That's a really good story. And the fact that he was...
I'm sure he has a ton.
Well, the fact that he was willing to meet up with you outside of his hotel, unfortunately what happened, but kept in contact with you and was ready to jump in and assist in helping you get that situation, and still checks in with you. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, that's great. Let me ask you about Hideki Kakanuma. So he follows you. Were you...
Hideki.
So he is the father of the FK8 and the FL5.
Yes. So when I don't know him personally, and I
don't doubt that, to be honest with you.
But it is on my bucket list to take my FK engine cover to Japan one day and get it signed. So hopefully I could get that set up one day. But until then, I mean, I think I've just tagged him on a few things, and he started following me, which was really cool. But I haven't had like any like one-on-one talks with him or anything like that.
Well, he talks no English, so your Japanese better be really good.
I'll probably take a translator or something. Nowadays with like Google Translate and all these new devices, I
Sure.
think some people get around in foreign countries like that. So I'll probably lean on that a little bit.
Yeah, we got an opportunity to meet him at NS Expo in October. So he and his design team flew out from Honda, and that was kind of an unexpected surprise. So they kind of were going around and talking to, when they brought a translator, she's really good too. She sounds like the voice, you know, the Asian or the little Japanese voice, the robot voice, you know, it's like, wow, she sounds just like the videos and the cartoons. She's American.
Oh yeah.
But it's like, she sounds funny. Just like it, you know, we did soft talk. And, but anyway, that was pretty cool. To at least.
That was this past October?
Yep. They flew to Dallas, Texas and spent the entire weekend with us.
Very cool.
Signed a bunch of stuff that we auctioned off. I hooked Dennis up because Dennis has been really good for me with autocannon. I had Hideki and his entire design team sign an autocannon hat and an HRC hat and had it delivered to Dennis, which is super cool. And then, of course, King Motorsports follows you too. So that's got to feel pretty cool too.
They're really good. King Motorsports is really good at responding. Their social media director, I think they have like one person like manning all the messages. And when they came out to the Honda Cards and Coffee, I talked to the manager of King Motorsports. I forget his name, but he knew exactly who I was. He's like, "Yep, I know what you're talking about." I had some questions for him about one of their products. And then came to my car. He like looked at it. He even brought the director or the manager of marketing from Mugen that was there at their tent, and we just talked for a little bit. But yeah, whatever you expect from Mugen, King Motorsports is doing, like, their customer service is like top notch, is what I would. And so I try to get every once in a while some parts for the FK8. Whenever I can. If we could go back, do you mind if we go back to autocannon a little bit?
Let's go back.
Yeah, so I'd be remiss to not mention like how great that brand is. If anybody is not aware, like autocannon does official Honda licensed products for all sorts of the lineups that they've had. So like Type R, Type S. That's actually how I met you, right, Jhae? When I saw that you had
I had the autocannon
Type S apparel. I was like, oh, okay, like he kind of looks familiar, and then I was like, oh, that's Jhae with the ZenSX. And so HRC, I think, is another one that they have. So really cool brand, very good quality product. And so Dennis Keiko is the designer and owner of autocannon.
Autocannon Max Boost.
Yeah, and Max Boost. So with Max Boost, that's actually how I found out about his brands. And I didn't grow up in the 90s with Honda in like the JDM scene. I really didn't understand it, any of the car culture or anything like that until I watched Fast and Furious. So
that's fine.
But I found out about Max Boost when Dennis did a Kickstarter for his H is for Honda book. And so when I saw that, I was like, that's a cool little Honda product that I want in the future. And that I think that it's a great opportunity for kids to kind of get like incepted into the Honda brand, right? And so I really wanted to kind of put my stamp on a Honda product, and it just happened to be that Dennis, with this Kickstarter, if you put in a certain amount of money in the Kickstarter, you actually got your name on it, on the product itself. So if you turn over the book, you see a couple names on there, and my name is on there.
Oh, that's cool. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah,
we have the book and the coloring book, so it's around here somewhere.
Yep, those would be it. I used it as a bit of a life like landmark for me, just from some changes that I was going on in my life during that time, and so I wanted to kind of put that as a landmark for myself, which is really cool to have that opportunity.
Wow, that reminds me so much, and hopefully it's not the same type of stuff that's going on. But we had Michael from autocannon on, and he talked about the impact that Max Boost or the AutoCannon brand, but in his case specifically, Max Boost had on his life at that time as well. It's amazing. I would say to most people, the little things, but to those that are impacted enough, major things. And so that's just part of this crazy culture, man.
Yeah. And you hear so many stories once you get to know people and everything. Like everybody's doing these hobbies for different reasons. Sometimes it's just for the joy of it, right? You want to kick in your inner child, right? Sometimes it's a distraction from something else that's going on. Sometimes you're just trying to grow in business or grow personally from one way or another. And there's different facets to these brands, to these hobbies that we get into, right?
Absolutely. Do you have just Instagram, or are you on YouTube or anything?
No YouTube. I've thought about it in the past, but what makes me happy is just getting something, taking a picture, doing a quick video on it, and putting it on my page. I like looking back at my page and just seeing like, what was I doing at a certain point in time? And it's just kind of served a little bit as a memory over the last few years for me.
Well, good deal, man. I want you to, again, like I said, we're recording this on Christmas Eve. You know, my wife said, I told her I go have a podcast interview, and she goes, "Oh, you're such a Scrooge, making people do interviews on Christmas Eve." I'm like, "Well, no, wait a minute. Well, Willie, he suggested it's fine, just regular working day, but I want you to have a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year." And that's
Thank you.
Zuniga Zoom Zoom on Instagram. You guys need to check them out. Really cool stuff. And if your mind is blown from the conversation, great. Because like anything that people collect, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. There's purses out there that cost $20,000, $30,000. There's shoes that cost an exorbitant amount. Everybody has something. And if you have a hobby, good for you. If you don't have a hobby, you need to find one. Do you have anything you want to plug on your way out?
No, that's a great way of summarizing it. I mean, like hobbies at the end of the day just give you a little bit of an extra boost during the day, during the week, whenever you need it. And so, I'd highly recommend getting yourself into hobbies. But thanks a lot, Jhae. Really appreciate it. Happy holidays to you and your family. And I hope we get to chat again soon.
Me too, man. Have a good one.
Thanks. Take care.
I want to thank Willie Zuniga for joining the show. Hope you enjoyed that. Again, we recorded that back in December. He is not affected by the wildfires. I know that because I have been texting him lately. So he's all good. Just got back from Barrett Jackson doing the gala. Took the homie Josh with me. It was a good time. And I plan on hitting up the auction a couple times this week. So with that being said, I want to thank Wright Honda and Wright Toyota. Toyota of Huntington Beach, Claremont Toyota, and Gardenia Honda. ArcusFoundry.com. AutoCannon, officially licensed Honda and Acura gear. Patreon business supporter, Kuya Automotive out of Wood Garden, Florida. Automotive Specialty Tool out of Owings Mills, Maryland. Pell Construction out of Conroe, Michigan. Beak House Small Home Design out of Ashburn, Virginia, and Traverse City, Michigan. Shaping Success with Wes Tankersley out of Boise, Idaho. If you're in a position to help the podcast upgrade, join the Patreon for as little as $3 a month and get access to audio as well as show swag. Special shout out to Mark Stoneman, Catherine Cox, Eddie Ramos, Richard Graves, Byron Jones, Bo Jung, Alex Gamina, Drew Bunker, and Yasu Chiba. If you want to email the show, hardparkingpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to be part of the show, hardparkingpodcast@gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram @Jhae Pfenning. Join the Hard Parking Violations Facebook group. If you really enjoyed the show, share it with a friend, and I will talk to you all next week.
Shut up!